Good morning. So tomorrow's show, August 21st at 3 p.m. Pacific time, is going to be about cryptid behavior. And I'm going to probably tell a story about something I know and then go from there. And I think I'm going to extend it to about an hour. The location I'll be doing my live broadcast from will be where the banana has been found, because I believe I've been snuck up on a couple of times in that area already, and I think I may have caught him twice on film, but I'm going to double check the areas before I make any statements about what I suspect. Other than that, I hope I catch something tomorrow. I might flip the camera around if I get snuck up on, just to see if we all can see something. But right now, I wanted to share a story about Bigfoot and coyotes. So when I was living in Douglas County in the yurt next to where the dog man was, he actually lived with a group of 10 other individuals, and he was the only dog man. So I assume he was either adopted or the result of some sort of other issue. Catch my drift? Happens a lot, especially with females who go on turnout for marriage purposes. They might end up pregnant by something they don't want to be pregnant by. But they'll keep the child, typically, unless it's a bad entity, and then they'll poison themselves to get rid of the infant. I'll tell you about that later. There's something about Jen's background story that will tell you more about that. So one night, about, let's say it was maybe 1:30 in the morning, I woke up to the most god-awful scream I'd ever heard. About 2 miles away. It sounded like a child being ripped apart. Just horrible sounding. And it sounded like dogs were doing it to him. And it sounded like a boy. Like a little boy being ripped apart by dogs. It scared the living hell out of me. So I'm listening to this. And this is about, like I said, about 2 miles south. It was on the next mountain. It was on private property, so I could never go and investigate the area. But I heard a lot of activity from that area over the 7 months I was there. So the next thing I hear is a woman screaming, like bloody murder screaming. And then I hear a dog yelp, and I know it's been killed, because it sounded like it got either broken or ripped apart. I'm not sure which. It was horrific sounding. I hear the boy crying, and I hear the mother wailing. And then I hear a roar from the husband. And he was maybe a quarter mile away from him, closer to me. And I hear crashing, which I thought was insane because I know it was 2 miles away. So he had to have been breaking some big shit to get to her. Pardon my French. And I have seen that in person. I have an incident I need to relay to you about seeing 4 and 6-inch trees just knocked. Hey, kiwa, ohone dama. So the Skockham family is here tonight. They've been tapping a little bit. I told them it was okay to join in. Anyway, I hear the roar, and I hear the crashing through the woods. And then I hear more crashing, 3 or 4 more individuals coming towards where the incident happened with the child. And I hear what I think is like screaming or like yelling in a conversation. But I couldn't understand the language. I knew it was a native language. I just didn't recognize it. So the next thing I hear, which continued for a good probably 10 or 15 minutes, was probably 20 or 30 coyotes getting just freaking decimated. They're yipping and yelping and running, and I'm hearing crashing, and I'm hearing screaming, and I'm hearing howls, and I'm hearing growls, and I'm hearing just freaking insanity. And Then dead silence. Nothing. Screaming. Gone. The dog's gone. I hear them exit what's left of them. And you hear them yip, yip, yip as they're leaving. And there were not many left, maybe 5 or 6 from what I could tell. And then I hear the woman crying. And I hear her mate trying to console her. So I don't think the child lived through the incident. And then after that, for the next 2 weeks, and the dog man from my area actually joined this. There was a hunt. And both parties of cryptids, both family groups, so I assume they were maybe related by marriage, completely eliminated that coyote group in that area. And it was pretty good sized. Overall, I think it was maybe 50 or 60, a bigger pod of, or family group of coyote. But once they were done with them, I didn't hear any coyotes anymore. They were gone. So that's some insight on coyotes. The other thing I know for sure, because I was an eyewitness when I was 8, and I will tell that story tomorrow at my live. So I met a Skookum child once in the Coyotes because he was being attacked by a coyote. He was being bitten in the right arm. I didn't realize that it wasn't a human child that was being bitten. My mom and I had just stopped to camp. It was our second day in the woods. And I was playing in the creek as she was getting, camp set up and dinner ready. So I run to where the coyote is, and as I run, I grab a stick, a good-sized one, baseball bat sized, and I club the hell out of the coyote, hit him across the neck, back of the head, try to make him break free of what I thought was a human child at the time, because the child sounded human. Wasn't human. So when I clobbered the coyote, I started screaming for my mom. And as I'm screaming for my mom, the coyote faces me and he's growling at me. He's like 4 feet away, and I know I'm toast. So I put myself between the child, and I hadn't really looked at him yet. All I saw was like his brown hair from the side where he was sitting behind a fern next to a small path next to a creek. So I put myself between the child, who was a little younger than me, and the coyote, and I faced off against the coyote. I was going to try to clobber him, and I knew I was going to get it. I knew it. So I started screaming for my mom. And then I hear splashing across the river. The next thing I remember is seeing the coyote laying on the ground in front of me, because the woman who'd picked the coyote up was about probably 8.5 or 9 feet tall. She was a Skookum woman. And wow, she was massive. That's the drawing I made of the Skookum person, was her. So I'm face to face with her, and she laid the dog down in front of me, the coyote. Its back had been broken around the hip region, so it couldn't do anything. It was trying to crawl away, but it couldn't. So it was laying there. The child was bleeding bad, so I turned around and I put pressure on the wound, and I'm still screaming for my mom, and I don't know what to do, because there's this 8.5 foot tall woman behind me who is looking at me like, what? And she tries to remove my hands from the wound. And I tell her, no. And then I lift my hand and show it's bleeding really bad, and I put pressure back on it. And then my mom shows up, and she starts talking to the Skookum woman, and approaches, and everything gets resolved, and we take the child and bandage him up. So tomorrow I will elaborate on that story, and hopefully we'll get some more interactions tomorrow. Take care till then.